Hello, Zach. You are up next.
Oh, what's up, Bart?
How's it going?
I'm good. How are you, man?
All right, man. You got a hand for us?
Yep. So this is 1-3 at the Lodge in
One,
Austin,
three
Texas.
at the lodge. Are they still doing match the stack, or have they put a cap on this game now?
No, so this is a 1K cap,
Hmm.
but this it's 200 to 1K, but this hand is 1800 effective.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, when I was living in Austin, there was no cap. I think that's something somewhat recent, like in the last year or something like that.
I don't know. This is my first time there. I mostly play in Detroit area, so it's my first time there. So
So somebody had said to me, I mean, if it's your first time there, I'm sure if you're a visitor. Someone told me as we had a lot of influx of new subscribers, and I was meeting a lot of people over the last few weeks, that there was a guy that was a regular at the lodge, and he said literally like in the last 3 to 6 months, there was like a group of 30 or 40 euros that came like locusts into the lodge to play higher stakes, no limit. And I could just see that setup just absolutely decimating a room for that level. And I'm not even talking about the strength of players. It's just like, oh God, when you have a bunch of four proper players come in and they're obvious to spot, this is what drives the games somewhat underground. I don't know if that's still going on or what. But okay, so 1-3,
yeah,
1800 effective. Okay. Yep.
yeah. So 1-3, 1800 effective. We're in the cutoff with Ace of Hearts, Six of Hearts.
Okay.
The main action guy who covers us at the table is in the hijack, and he opens to 15.
Now you're not playing one three
Um,
six though, right? It's just 1-3 for
it
now.
was just 1-3
Okay.
for this hand,
Okay.
but most of the hands actually were 1-3-6, but this hand was not.
Okay.
So he opens to 15. It folds to him. He opens to
Mm-hmm.
15. We're in the cutoff with the Ace of Hearts, Six of Hearts. We make it 40. I think I was really looking for a spot against this guy. Was kind of the big thing. Was just like this was the guy that I wanted to get in the hand with, and I thought that this was a good play where like the button was really tight, so he was never cold calling this 3 bet. He was either going to 4 bet and then I just have an easy fold, or he's going to fold. And it folds back to the guy in the hijack, and he reaches for like a big stack, and then he just makes it 150. So it's like 3.5, closer to 4x the 40,
Okay,
and
I have a couple thoughts on this
yeah,
too. I do have to look. I'm looking in the live chat again. We're doing this on Sunday for the live stream. Eden Rocks, the king of the Twitter space or whatever you want to call it, the X space. It looks like he's in the live chat. What's going on, Eden Rocks? He's been busy over the last week with his Garrett coverage. He's supposed to call in a hand, but it never really happened. We should make that happen, Eden, at some point. What I was going to say here about this particular pre-flop spot, I mean, you can actually go either way with this. In a typical setup where there's three blinds, absolutely, I defer to three betting. I always talk about that because you want to drive the blinds out. Here, you guys are pretty deep. You're not closing the action. It's interesting. You're not closing the action, which would lean towards a three bet. But it's interesting that you say like you have a tight button because sometimes when you have an ultra tight button, you can play a cutoff more like a button type of thing. Where if this guy's v pipping very low behind you, you don't always have to three bet. I have no problem with the three bet. It's certainly a mix. It's just like not mandatory.
yeah,
Now he comes back over the top, and he now four bets to 150. I don't know what you think about that type of what that range is. I will say it's a fairly large four bet, going more up to 4x. If you're going to have some three bet folds that aren't, it's weird. It's not really you're not necessarily, and I don't call ace six of hearts a bluff, but it's probably the bottom of your three bet range. You can fold for sure. I mean, I think ace six is probably, we did this thing on our top section. I remember the podcast. We have actually in the coursework too. I think it's Ultimate Guide to Preflop. Talked about like ranking the suited aces like in order. And I remember ace six being like the second worst one behind ace deuce. No straights, not really like a lot of high card value, stuff like that. I don't know. It's just close. It seems to me we wouldn't have a call if you didn't call here to the four bet, but you could probably fold off here quite a bit.
yeah. And to be honest, I actually almost just mucked it. I was like, okay, like let's just move on next hand. One of the reasons that I called, and this is maybe counterintuitive, but I had enough hand history. Like I'd been at the table with this guy for like 5 hours at this point. Because the four bet sizing was so large, it just didn't feel like he wanted to. It felt like he wanted to end the hand right there. Didn't feel like he had these big pairs because I had seen him four bet like Jack 10 of clubs. He turned over, and I had seen him four bet Queen Jack offsuit. So he was four betting wide enough where in position, I was just like, okay, like I want to see a flop. But I agree. I did almost muck his hand, and we obviously wouldn't have a call. But so I call. There's 304, 300 in the pot going to a
Okay.
flop.
Okay.
And the flop is eight of spades, eight of diamonds, six of spades.
Okay. So 886. So you flop a pair here, but there's obviously a pair above the six. Okay.
Right. And so he c-bets 125. And with the hand history and the villain, that's kind of what plays the majority of this hand. Two specific hands where he four bet and had kings and aces and turned them over at showdown. His c-bet sizing was a lot larger. So I felt like that this. I just didn't think that it was aces, kings, queens. Like I didn't think that's where he was at. And if I'm going to call this four bet, I have to peel the turn.
You mean peel the flop?
Two pair.
Peel the flop.
Peel two.
Yeah, of course you have to call here with, you have to call it to 125. All right, so 125 and a call. So 550. The only thing I would say here too is that, like, even though obviously you have to continue, right, with a pair. When there's a paired board like this though, it's worse because of the fact that, if an overcard comes, then a lot of times like your two pair types of things aren't good. Although you do have an ace, but okay, so 550 to the turn.
The turn comes 10 of diamonds, so there's two flush draws on board, but the board is 8, 8, 6, 10.
Right, so again, a 4-bet pot. Again, we think that probably Hero can do a lot of folding or should do a lot of folding pre-flop. 8, 8, 6, small bet, obviously a call. 8 of spades, 8 of diamonds, 6 of spades. Hero has ace, 6 of hearts. Turns the 10 of diamonds, so now there's a front door and a back door. Obviously, like Jack picks up a straight draw, 9, 7, something like that. Okay.
Yeah, and he goes pretty quickly, 225 on the turn.
Yeah, I think this is a clear fold now. I was just going to say, I mean, again, for some of you guys that are new, I screen the calls, but I try not to, I kind of try to skim them for quality, but I try not to kind of have these pre-arranged thoughts about the hands. And a lot of times I don't know the result to try to keep it fresh. I do remember reading this turn and then the guy betting. And the thing about this is that, like, if it was a deuce or something like that, sure. Even sometimes if it was like the deuce of diamonds, but you're just so far behind. I mean, there's just so many hands now that pick up a lot of equity against you. And that is if you're still ahead, plus the fact now that it is an overcard to the eights, which means that you can get counterfeit as well. Your pair can get counterfeit. Now, I know you'll still have ace high, but I just think it's a clear. You'd have to be doing some really, really digging here to make this call, unless you somehow were gonna like bluff you were planning on trying to run some sort of bluff or something like this.
I felt, I think the main point is this is a full pre-flop, and then we don't put ourselves in this spot now on the turn where he's betting a little less than half pot. And
I'm not necessarily of that sort of school of thought. I saw a comment go by here in the live chat saying, this is exactly why we don't call this, to a 4-bet because of the reverse implied odds. I mean, we can say that it's a mistake, slight mistake, slightly less negative EV calling this to a 4-bet, but I'm not really of that school of thought. Well, this is why you don't call to get into situations like that. You just play the hand out against the ranges and the pot odds that you're getting. So I'm not a huge sort of supporter of that line of thought of, this is why we don't call with ace-6. It's just now you just, like I said at the beginning of this street, it's just, okay, this is not a good card for us. And I think it's time to pitch to a half pot size bet.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, obviously I call here because that's why we have this hand history, but I think I agree. I think that this is on turn. It's time to fold. Player dynamics were just a huge part of this hand, and just the sizing of his bets, just sitting at the table for enough time and watching the way that he played other hands where he had big value. The bet sizings were much closer to 75 and 80% pot on flop and turn, and not closer to 1/3 and 1/2. And so that was a big, like, where I was just looking at this hand like
the interesting part. The interesting part of this, what I would say is that if this was a 3-bet pot, like say for example, like you opened right from like the hijack and you were facing like a small blind 3-bet, something like that, right, where you were in position. This is a card for the small blind that he probably has to slow down a lot on, like in a 3-bet pot when you defend. Because it's a 4-bet pot where the Rangers are supposed to be tighter, he probably can still bet sort of liberally. I mean, you might have 10-10 here.
Right.
And you might have
that was the big thing.
And you might have 8-8, but it's not, you're not having like a lot of Jack 9 and 7-9 suiteds and stuff like that, which you might have in a 3-bet pot, right? Opening and then defending in position. So 1,000 to the river, okay.
1,000 to the river,
Yep.
and the river's a 4 of clubs. So most flush draws miss.
Oh,
I mean, if he's in there with like 7-5, I guess it gets it, but like it's a 4-bet pot. So everything misses on river. It's the second biggest brick in the deck behind the 3 of clubs. So,
right.
And now he is like, and this is another big part of this hand, was he like sits there. His bet on the flop, his bet on the turn were very quick. And then his bet on the river, he sits there and he tanks for at least 2 minutes. And then he jams. Or he covers me.
I mean, here's the thing, right? Like, sometimes we get calls like this. I mean, I can't, if you're going to tell me that you're making a gigantic exploit because you've noticed something live, like a Teddy KGB type of live read, although I think bet patterns are definitely something that's totally viable. You can go down that road, but this would not be one of the hands I don't think that you would ever call. I mean, sure, I don't think this would even be close to a call given like if the guy is not too far off from what he's supposed to be doing. And to be honest with you, I mean, I'm trying to think like is this out of, like crazy to do with like aces or kings? I don't think so, especially not aces. I mean, sure, you have 10-10 and you have 8-8, but it is a 4-bet pot and you defended. You're not even really supposed to be in the hand here with 6x. So, it is maybe a little bit bizarre that he's going so sort of value heavy and he went sort of small half and then just jammed. That is a little bit bizarre, but I'd have to have a real sort of crystal clear background information on this particular guy to really make have like a dead on read really to make this call here.
Yeah, and I almost snap mucked like that, and that's again.
People in the live chat are saying that you could call and lose to 7-7, maybe to 7-7, turning their hand into a bluff. That would be really something.
Right, like that. I mean, that's the other thing is I do lose to some bluffs. Like I lose to 10 Jack, right? Like if he's just like, oh, let me just put it in or something, whatever. Like I lose to a lot.
But it would make absolutely no sense for him to ever do this with a 10 because you arrive on the river here sometimes with hands that he beats, like 9s, right? Maybe once in a while 7s. It just that just wouldn't make any. I don't think especially Jack 10 where he's blocking you from having jacks. So
yeah, my read on the flop was that he had ace king in this spot, and that was just the read that I had to trust. And I'm going to be wrong a lot of the time, probably more than I'm going to be right. And I tanked for a while.
Are you going to be wrong more than let's say like 35% of the time?
Yeah, right. I mean, it's not a profitable call. I don't think it is. That's why I submitted the hand, but I am going to be wrong. I'm getting like a little more than 2.5 to 1. I'm going to be wrong too much, but in the moment, I was just like, I don't think that you are playing your aces and kings this way. I just don't think that I think you're trying to extract value on river and just the way the hand played out.
So it sounds to me like you hear it. Okay.
I called, and he tables ace king offsuit, ace of spades, king of hearts, and nobody can really believe the call I made because it is a ridiculous call. I'm not sitting here like, oh, I'm some genius. I'm sitting here like it's a bad play, probably got lucky, but I just in the moment I trusted the read that I had, and the bet sizing was really where I was at.
I definitely will acknowledge that the bet line for value is strange. It definitely is strange. Now, I probably would have played the hand on each street differently, to be honest with you, except for the flop. If I got to the flop, I think your flop call is fine. I don't know if I would ever get curious on the river, but it's definitely strange. So I will acknowledge that part of this. But thank you very much for submitting. I appreciate it.